Thank you for joining us today. We're excited you're here to meet the author of today's book. Welcome to Digital Book Nooks, Meet the Author Show, where you can discover your next great book. With your host, D.G. Thomas. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to today's Meet the Author Show. Our talented guest author today not only writes children's books, but he is also an illustrator. I'm excited to introduce you to today's guest author, Lawrence M. Haynes, also goes by L.M. Haynes or Larry, who is here to discuss his book, The Runaway Clock. If you are watching the show live today, feel free to ask questions in the chat box on YouTube, and all questions will be answered at the end of the interview. Lawrence M. Haynes is a licensed land surveyor whose hobbies include music, sports, and illustration. His interest in illustration and wanting to influence the lives of young people in a faith-filled and positive way has led to the creation of this book and 3 previously published entitled The Christmas Time Travelers, The Littlest Patriots, and The Vanishing Doorknob. And he's also written more books. He's getting ready to write, this is his 7th book that he's published. So a father of 3 adult daughters, Catherine, Christina, and Bernadette. He's an active member of St. Edward the Confessor Parish in Syosset, New York. I hope I said that right, where he and his wife, Amy, reside. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Lawrence Haynes. You go by Larry, right?
Please, thank you.
Okay, sure. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time to be able to speak about myself and a little about myself and my books. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So I guess we're going to start, since you're a children's writer and illustrator, I'm going to start with your childhood. So what was your childhood like, and who were some of the greatest influences in your life?
I had a wonderful childhood. I grew up in Queens, New York, which is one of the 5 boroughs of the city of New York, with a huge family. My mom and my dad were huge influences on me, as well as my sister, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, all a very, very big part of my life, and all a very positive influence, all very positive influence.
Okay. So you're an illustrator. And did anyone in particular influence you to start drawing, and how?
No, as far as my mom ever told me, I just always loved to draw. I would, at 5 and 6 and 7 years old, I would just copy, I would copy pictures that I saw in a magazine or a family friend, and I always loved it. It was just something that I occupied a great deal of my time when I was growing up. But then going through finishing up elementary school and high school, which I did draw through, and then going on to college and meeting my wife, there was a time when I did not draw, probably for about 35 or 40 years. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I started drawing again. I was influenced by some photographs that my wife had taken of our 3 dogs. And I thought it would be a challenge to start drawing again. And it was really there, just the photographs of them and how much they had become part of our family, that influenced me to start drawing again.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your illustration process. I know you're also a writer. So what comes first? Is it the writing, the story, or the illustration?
It's basically, my illustrating is all done with colored pencils. No other, I don't use any other element or any type of paints or what's the word I'm looking for? Pastels. It's just all colored pencils. The first book, The Christmas Time Travelers 1, came to me after I had started illustrating again. I've always been interested in time travel, and when I had illustrations done about 3 dogs at the time, the idea and the story came to me. I'm not in any way formally trained as a writer, other than any classes I may have taken in elementary school and high school.
Mhm.
And I'm not formally trained in art. I've never taken a formal art class. It's just something that's evolved over the years. And the writing is the most difficult part for me. Drawing, doing the illustrations, and then trying to connect the writing to it is the part I find the most challenging, but yet the most rewarding.
Okay, I understand that. So you've written 7 books so far, and
Yes.
2 of which have won a Pacific Book Review Award last year in 2021.
Yes.
So
Go
how
ahead,
do you
please.
come up with all these ideas?
They seem to be. It seems to be getting a little easier to come up with the idea the more books that you do.
Right.
What I try to do is my goal is to reach out to children and even their parents
Mhm.
to have a time together when parents can read to their children, because I believe that's a part of our culture that's kind of disappearing a little bit with
Mhm.
all the other avenues of entertainment that children have. So a lot of my books are based on just the themes of love and kindness and forgiveness and tolerance and faith. So I will look in. All of my books are ended with a caption from Scripture
Mm.
that I think relate a particular theme. So what I try and do is based on those themes, as I said, of love and kindness. I look for a scripture verse that applies, and that's where the story, evolves from.
Okay.
I'll take a little from my own life, what I may hear or read, what I may hear on television or read in a magazine, or what I may hear as part of a homily in my church on Sunday. And sometimes just an idea will pop into my head that way.
It's interesting how the ideas just kind of come to you and flow and then just kind of take form and root from there, right? So your current book, I'm going to show a picture of it really quickly,
Sure.
is The Runaway Clock. It's
Mhm.
available at Amazon and other retail outlets. So can you tell us a little bit about this book?
With this book, I came up with the idea of children not wanting to necessarily grow up to be adults and to stay children for as long as they can. It's type of a coming of age book, and it revolves around these 3 children, a brother and 2 sisters, who live in this small town, and they're so happy with their lives as children that they are hesitant to grow up.
Mm.
And one night they make a wish that before they go to bed that they can stay children forever.
Mm.
The whole story then revolves around this beautiful mantle clock that's in the home, and the adventure that the mantle clock takes the children on, allowing them to see themselves as adults up to 30 years in the future, and for them to come to the realization that it doesn't have to be terrible to be an adult, that you can make a difference as an adult, even if it's only in your little corner of the world. You don't have to be afraid to be an adult or to influence the lives of people around you as you become an adult. And consequently, the clock takes them back to their childhood again. And that's basically how the story ends.
Okay. I like that. I like that concept. And I see that you kind of have a recurrent concept in some of your books of time travel.
Yeah,
So
I'm
is that
fascinated.
something that you enjoy writing?
I've always been fascinated by time travel. Actually, I think there's about 3 of the Christmas time travel is 1,
Mhm.
Christmas time travel is 2, and the Runaway Clock. They
Right.
do revolve around that theme of time travel.
Oh, that's great. I love time travel as well.
I think it just makes for an interesting plot, even
It
for
does.
a children's book.
I think so too. So what do you hope that readers, parents, and children take away from the Runaway Clock when they read the story?
Well, as with the Runaway Clock and also with my other books, my hope is that I can influence um, children and even their parents in a positive, faith-filled way. As I had said earlier, I don't think I don't. I would love to see parents and children spend more quality time together, away from the television, away from the computer and all the social media, and even all the other sports activities. Because I think when you sit down with your child, whether it's on the living room sofa or in their bed, and you read a story to them, not only does it help with their reading skills because they can read along with you, but what I've tried to do with these books is to try to give a lesson to not only the children but and to parents, because I'll read them sometimes and I'll say, oh boy, that's why I wrote that, because not only is it something that a child can learn from, but maybe their parent can learn from also.
Definitely.
So that's really my goal with all of the books.
Okay. So, in addition to being an illustrator and an author, you are also a publisher. And
Yes.
so, do you have any advice for any authors or writers who want to be authors about publishing?
Well, I am partnered kind of up with the Renaissance Publishing to help me to help other people self-publish their books. I don't have I don't have a lot of advice because this is still so new to me, other than to pursue it if you have the passion for it, to pursue it. If you feel you have the talent for it, to pursue it. If you can be an illustrator, maybe you want to just be an illustrator and offer your illustration skills to a publishing company, because they always need illustrators for books like children's books, and to just write what you know about. I think that's, or what you're passionate about. I think that's very, very important, because for me, being raised a Catholic Christian and having carried that faith through my adult life, for me to reflect on everything that I've learned through my faith over the years, that's why it's easy for me to reflect on these themes of love and patience and understanding and kindness, themes that run throughout every religion in the world. But for me specifically, as a Catholic Christian, that's where I draw my influence from. And where any author should draw their influence from is what they've learned and what their passions are.
Yeah, I think it's great advice. Just writing from your own frame of reference, your own knowledge. I think that's probably the most comfortable place to write from.
Absolutely, yes.
And so I think that's wonderful advice. So I'm going to show your book again.
Okay.
And it is available once again to everyone watching the show at Amazon and other retail outlets. And Larry also has 6 other books right now. And if you go and visit the Digital Book Nook blog today, the remainder of the interview is posted on the blog, as well as his website address and the titles of his other books, if you're interested in checking those out as well. Larry, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much, Thea. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and meeting you. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to get to speak with you and to your viewers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee.
So everyone, thank you so much for joining the show today. And let me check. I didn't check on. No, we don't have any. We don't have any questions. But thank you so much for joining the show today. Please stop by the Digital Book Nook blog to learn more about Larry and his books and his publishing company, as well as where you can get the Runaway Clock. And once again, thanks for joining us, and goodbye.